Becca, so last time on Info Dump, was talking about my theme for this year, which was honoring my limitations. And I said at the time, there's going to be some bumps in the roads, and I look forward to learning in this process. And in this first month, there's been bumps in the road. Now on the positive side of things, like there's a lot of good things have been happening in January, and I'm super thankful for that. But beyond that, I am so tired. Like every day, I'm just so tired now. And I've been like looking at like figuring out I have a pretty good idea at this point, like when I'm going through burnout and I'm going through burnout.
All right, well, wait, let's talk about it like in a super coachy way. Let's do it.
All right.
Okay, so for just a second, because I'm in a similar place as you are, which makes me equally frustrated and sad, as I'm sure it does you. But here's the deal, and we all have to start programming our brains for this thing. This is my new awareness. So you know how it gets all willy wonky in like December, and there's no schedule, and there's supposed to be all this resting, but it's a lot of not resting and a lot of stress and all of that stuff. And everyone in that time somehow imagines like if you put things off till January, like you'll be ready for it then. But the deal is January and December are super close. So it's really not as long a break like as we imagine it to be, right? And so it's really actually, I think, a really quick shift from that holiday mentality to let's get back to work and start grinding it out, right? And so there really isn't a vacation in there, even though there's time off, right? So I think that part of doing this thing where we're really watching our spoons is knowing, not setting ourselves up for failure in January, like knowing that in the same way we plan for times in our lives when we should lightly schedule, right? That early part of January has to be in there somewhere, because we all imagine somehow you're going to have more energy after the holidays are over. Where is that coming from? No, but we think somehow there's like this line in the sand in calendars.
Like we're starting over, and like now we have like full amount of energy.
Right, like somehow you go to sleep on December 31st and you wake up on January 1st and you're like fully you have like new lives added? No. Right. And so we have to think about that stuff, I think, that, in the coming years, because I think we set traps. And I think that's part of where this burnout comes from, because I feel it too. Like all of a sudden, all the people that I was like, oh, well, I guess it can wait till after the holidays. Oh, well, I guess it can wait till after the holidays. Well, it did. And now that time is here and I want to cry like that. Right. So that's my new plan in terms of that. My other piece of that is, what do we coach about burnout and about climbing out and what to do when you know that you're there?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot lately is that my, talking about my limitations, that I'm wondering if my limitations are a lot more like I have like than I realized, and how to change my life based on these expectations.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we have to do that on a yearly basis as human beings. If we're doing our jobs right as human beings, we're aging at the same time that we're evolving, right? And so we should be checking in, like, what am I capable of, right? Like 20-year-old me and 47-year-old me have a whole lot of nothing in common when it comes to like the clock and how I function and what I'm able to do and all of those things. And so I feel like we constantly have to be on a path of adjustment for that. And for us particularly, it means understanding that some things take more spoons than others. Like I really have a limit of the amount of Zoom calls and the amount of social like meetings I can have in a day, right? And how many days of the week I have capacity to do that. I have a limit, right? And so I would say begin looking at those things, Doug. Is it like, what are the things that take more of your energy and what are the things that take less?
It's funny you bring up Zoom calls, because during the pandemic, I very much realized like, okay, I got to cut out so much of these things that I'm doing outside of my home. And lately I'm realizing, oh, I can't do 8 straight Zoom calls. Like that's like I'm just gonna be totally drained and
It's
I
the
need to
same.
build in periods of rest.
Yes, and here's the other one. Periods, like buffer periods between meetings. Just because we're sitting here and you just have to click a link between your meetings doesn't mean that you don't need to get up and pee and eat and like take a break and walk outside, right? So that's my other new deal, is that I'm trying to encourage everybody to schedule buffer times between your Zoom meetings and stuff. Because I find if I don't do that, I'll do a bunch of meetings straight together, and then all the things that I need to do to follow up from those meetings are still all sitting there for me to do after all those calls. And so if you can do them in between a little bit, it's a little bit nicer to yourself too.
Definitely.
Well, this has been good. We'll keep up with you, Doug. We'll check in next episode, I think, on this, and I'll see how you're doing. Guys, if he's not here for the next episode, we know that he did not address his burnout in time. Okay. In the meantime, let's go ahead and invite our guest in, who I am so excited to have her. I am like a nerdy follower of Marie on Instagram. I see her in other places, but that's the place where I just tend to run into her content the most. And I really enjoy it, because I finally feel like there's other advocates out there with tattoos and that will wear makeup and go to rock concerts and other things, which I didn't have when I first was diagnosed. So Marie, I am so excited to have you here to talk with us about what it is that you do and also what it is that you love. So welcome, Marie.
Yeah, hi, I'm so excited to be here, and I follow you all the time on LinkedIn too. So I am also just slightly fangirling a little bit. And for accessibility reasons, I am a pale-skinned woman with long black and purple hair, wearing a olive shirt and black glasses, and I'm sitting in the corner of the room.
Thank you, Marie, for that. So you have a wonderful coloring book series. It's called Chronically Spooky, and we'll get into that in a second. But, you know, so art's really important to me because my spouse is an art therapist. So I know all the benefits of art therapy and all those types of things. Now, art can be in a lot of different genres and mediums. I'm curious why you went the route of a coloring book.
Yeah, honestly, my coloring book was me trying to find something I can do and that I felt proud of, because my whole life, I never considered myself an artist. I was a journalist, I was a broadcaster. And so from a very young age, I remember I was interested in art and had a chance to go to a specialty school where I could either do art or I could do mass communications. And my mom told me that I wouldn't have a future in art. There was not a future in that. And there was a future in mass communications. And so I went through mass communications. Then I got extremely traumatized from disability discrimination. And now I'm an artist. And I made my future in art. And I made my coloring book 2 months after I lost my career to discrimination. And so I was trying to just pour, I guess, all of myself into something where I felt like it not only was representation that wasn't there, but like it was validating to someone else who was going through something similar, because it's hard to really live in an ableist society and be neurodivergent, disabled, chronically ill, like, and just trying to feel proud of yourself and be comfortable with yourself. And so my book Chronically Spooky was my first endeavor into trying to be comfortable with myself, I guess.
And it is a great endeavor. I'm interested, you know, Becca was just talking about, and I follow you on Instagram as well, and you have all these wonderful videos out there for people to see. If they haven't seen it, definitely should check it out. But I'm curious, hearing you talk about your background in mass communications, how that's kind of helped you in creating those videos, because they're very good.
Oh, thank you so much. I guess imposter syndrome, sometimes I feel like other people's videos are so much more, you know, energetic, and they come up with all these clever things and they wear awesome things. And I just sit there and I talk to a camera. But really, it's like, it's really helped me, I guess, in a way. But for a long time after I lost my career, I thought I wasted a big part of my life, because no film place would hire me, no broadcasting place would hire me anymore. There was no way that I could really continue with my career as it was, because I was in news. And so news is totally different than film. It's totally different than any creative type thing. Like, it's breaking news, extreme weather, like coding. I could code a show like none other, but I didn't know how to translate that really into my work. And so it took a while of, I guess, like shadow work and reflecting to understand that my skills have translated so well into my work. I'm able to be a storyteller. I do so many different creative types of marketing and different just storytelling that I do think being immersed in journalism from a very young age has really helped me, because that was really my special interest. I couldn't speak until I was put in front of a camera. Like, I got so anxious in class, I would cry. I didn't know I was autistic at that time, so I was just weird. And I found journalism, and that's where I found my voice. That's where I found my future and everything. So it's actually kind of nice, like, to hear that validation of someone else being like, I could totally tell you this is where your skills came from and your videos are awesome, because I really appreciate that. Like, it means more than,
Now, when you come across coloring books for, sometimes there'll be scenes of nature, there might be some cute animals. Why did you decide on spooky things? Because I thought that was a great choice.
Well, I'm kind of like a gothy type of person, but then I'm never a rainbows and butterflies kind of person. I just can't. There's so much of that already in the world. And it probably also helps that I do have really major depression at times. And so it's like, for me, chronically spooky is kind of not only taking like the morbid and taking stuff that really the ableist society tries to make us scared of, because it tries to make us scared of death. It wants us to be scared of decay. It wants us to be scared of that natural process of all of it. And so it makes us think skulls are creepy and that people who are interested in dark things are morbid. But really, it's kind of like facing so much of the darkness in life and reclaiming it in a way that is empowering. Because I don't know, like, I love artists who make such pretty things, and I see like rainbows and unicorns, and it's so beautiful, but then I can never create that. But dang, can I create a ghost or a skull?
So how far back does that kind of go?
I was always a scene kid back in the days. That was because I graduated 2012, so my era was the scene era. And I've always been someone that like I didn't really like vibe with a lot of different things that most people did. Like, I wasn't one of those people, don't get me wrong, I'm not one of those people that did creepy stuff, but I just didn't feel comfortable in certain vibes and aesthetics. And once I started really kind of like diving into my gothiness, and that really didn't happen until like I lost my career, because they make you feel like a professional. To be a professional, you have to look a certain way, you have to act a certain way, you have to be a certain way, and you can't have fun colored hair, you can't be dressed dark, you have to wear the same stuff. And so I was really able to like kind of explore my own personality once the ableist society kind of let me go a little bit. And that's been a silver lining, because I like it better than just trying to fit in.
I just vibe that with you so hard. My current job, I'm so thrilled to say that I interviewed for with my hair green and my tattoos showing. Like, that to me is a big deal, right? Like, how many times have I gotten a job and had to go like back to my natural color, not by choice, and things like that. And it's interesting because it's that same piece that's like that society, inlays upon you, that gives us that internalized ableism, that is also that have your natural hair color, you can't wear black eyeliner at work, or whatever nonsense they're spouting these days, right? I think that's so interesting, because I I too felt that freedom of like exploration of self when I left corporate America. Like, just
Mhm.
like, thank God I'm free.
Seriously, it's like now that I've lived this life of kind of freedom, I don't think I could ever go back. Like if a
Oh
place
no.
doesn't want me as I am, like my mom always tells me to minimize myself in a way, like don't talk about your disability in your resume, like
Right.
don't wear black lipstick, like, and it's like I can't do that. I have to wear black lipstick. I have to address my disability. Like they're just parts of us. And it's like, I don't think people realize that ableism permeates so deep to even hair color and like things that are like actions not related to disability. And that's part of like something that's been really fun for me in a way, is to rebel against all of that, because I always remind myself to be anti-ableist is to rebel against all of those types of standards, no matter how minute they might be. And so that's been healing in a way to me, I think.
And Marie, how can people get Chronically Spooky and Chronically Spooky
Mhm.
too?
Yeah. So you can find it on Amazon. It's a series, and so you just have to type Chronically Spooky, and 1 and 2 will come up. One's a bright pink cover, and one's a bright blue cover. And what's really fun is like every single page is hand drawn, and they also have image descriptions on the back of them, along with like just a little statement and a title. It's kind of a little bit more than just a coloring book, just because I wanted it, like I also had thoughts that I wanted to put out in paper, and I wanted, even though it's a physical book, there are still ways that people are able to use like screen reading type of things to be able to make it more accessible. And so yeah, you can just get it on Amazon, and it's $5.99 for the first one and $8.99 for the second one. And unlike most of the world, those prices won't change. I think it's really important to make sure that things can be accessible financially, just because everyone deserves a distraction that they feel validated by and that they can actually lose themselves in. I think so much of self-care is really inaccessible nowadays.
And what are some things that like maybe other than art and spooky things, what are some things you love?
Yeah, so this is kind of a really interesting question to me, just because I'm that type of person that didn't really make a personality outside of their work. And so for so long, my answer would be work. Like I love directing, I love doing this and that. It's all work stuff. So right now, instantly, my answer was I love advocating against the ableist society, but that's work. And so really I'm still trying to find myself outside of the things I do and the things I create. So I have a service dog. She's really awesome. She's disabled too, so she kind of had to retire from a lot of her tasks, but she makes everything awesome. I try to get more into just things around me, like picking out the colors in the sky, just so it can like calm me down in a sense, and colors and like flowers and things. So I guess stuff like that.
Do you, I don't know if this is a weird question or not, do you get joy from like advocating against an ableist society?
Oh yeah. Like I run on spite for sure. And so for a long time when I lost my career, that's what kept me going, was the thought that I was going to see those motherfuckers in court. And I couldn't do it because I kept getting so traumatized by just the process, that I had a consultation with a lawyer, and they were supposed to be on my side, by the way, but they kept asking me such vicious questions about why I didn't do something in the most traumatic time in my life. And so it broke me down, and I decided I can't go to court with it. But I also realized that there's so much more forms of justice than court, because honestly, the court doesn't really provide a lot of justice, as we've seen historically. So to me, like advocacy and fighting against the ableist society and helping people understand what ableism truly is to its deepest core, beyond discrimination in favor of able-bodied people, because that's not what really it is. It's like that, it gives me such joy, because it keeps me going. It's my reason. It's like, as cliche as it is to like feel like everything happens for a reason, that's what helps me keep going, is that I needed to live through what I lived through so I can know what I need to fight for. And just being able to see people messaging me and commenting how they relate and how much they needed to hear that, and just being able to accept themselves has been the most beautiful thing that even makes it more joyful to me.
Oh my
How
God, I love
important is
all of that so much. I just felt it so deeply. It's really like, just, you know, when you find your purpose, when you really step into it, it is your joy, even if it's something that's exhausting and stressful and all of those things that advocacy is, right? It's still when it goes the way it's supposed to go, the payback is so big, right? And it pays you back so large. I have to say though, please go and experiment with your joy. Like, this happens to people all the time. What you're describing isn't just a unique, you know, we begin to identify, especially in America, we do it to ourselves, right? We become our jobs. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what things bring you joy in the future and what you bring to us. Because going through that journey myself was really fun. There was joy in that journey of like experimenting. So, yeah.
And so far I've been able to experiment, you know, with different colored hairs. I've loved that. I play around with makeup, you know, and it's like I definitely, maybe I feel a little scared in a way because I'm so used to being all of my identity and working, because like even before I was a director, I was an honor student, I was an AP student, so you just know how that goes. And it's like you have no life outside of that. And so I'm definitely excited to see what is more joyful, because like that's even what's bad when you're an art activist like I am. Art becomes joyful, but then it also becomes work. But then I'm trying to explain to like my husband, he's like, you're always working even when you're painting. I'm like, well, I like this type of work. This is why I like spend so much time shading. Like I can easily spend 40 hours in a fully rendered piece, because I love to make stuff look realistic and textured. And that's, it might sound like kind of boring, but that's pretty joyful for me too in this day and age.
And it's important, I think, for people. I mean, this is one of those things I talk about all the time. Autistic joy gets judged all the time. And it's like, no, it comes in lots of different packages, right? And so when we really find all the different ways we can have joy, so that we can have like multifaceted identities, not just, you know, shoving it in when we can find it. We really get to experiment with who we are, and I don't know, you even get to mess around with even some of your challenges, because on the other side of some of those deficits are like, you know, extra good things. Like my sensory good things are so amazing to me. Well, thank you for sharing all that with us. It was awesome to hear all that. I am excited.
Well, I find joy in a lot of ways, but one way I find joy is with food. And I saw recently that you made some baked malasadas from scratch. So
yeah,
they looked really good. I had no idea what they were. Apparently they're Hawaiian.
Yeah, they're like brought by the Portuguese settlers in like the 1800s to Hawaiian. So they're like Portuguese Hawaiian. I don't know. They were in. My husband and I watch a lot of Pokemon, and so that was like the dessert of choice in the Alola region was malasadas. And so I found a recipe and I showed my mom, and she was like, let's make them. And she has no idea that she made them because of Pokemon. But they were awesome just to be able to do that too. Like I'm trying to find joy in baking more. I don't have a dishwasher at my house, so I don't bake at my house, but at my mom's I do.
One of the things with Pokemon that frustrates me is I have a hard time pronouncing most of their names.
Understandable, but you know, whatever you can pronounce it, that's its name, because it doesn't have to be like perfect to whatever some standard is. It's like, I don't know. I think that's a good way to kind of look at it.
Have you ever played Pokemon Go?
Oh my God. Yeah. I love Pokemon Go. I might have about like 3,000 Pokemon. I have no idea. But Pokemon Go was one of the ways that my husband got me out walking, because it's like I have a lot of physical disabilities too. And so before my stroke, he got me out with Pokemon Go. And then after I had my stroke, I just haven't gotten back out there yet. But I did re-download it, and we do it in the car sometimes.
I started playing it recently, and I got like 10 Pokemon. My problem wasn't so much the walking. The problem was you throw these Pokemon balls and I miss, and then I ran out of balls, and I was like, forget this, I'm done. And I got frustrated and quit.
Oh, so understandable. It's like the hardest when you run out of Pokeballs and there's no Pokestops around you, and like you can't get more balls. You don't want to pay for them. Totally understand.
Yes. Well, in each episode of the Info Dump Files, we have something called Inside the Autistic Studio, where these are just 11 questions, whatever kind of comes to your mind, Marie. You don't have to think too hard about these. So the first question is, what are your pronouns?
She, her.
And what's your preferred stim?
Oh, I like touching stuff, like tactile. I've been playing with this the whole time. The little wrapper. If stuff's shiny or textured, definitely tactile.
Yeah. What's your favorite curse word?
Fuck.
And who do you love, and what are you doing about it?
Oh, I love my husband, and I don't know what I'm doing about it. We're married, so I guess I did something about it.
Fair enough. These next two are fill in the blank. You may be neurotypical if.
Oh man, let's see. You may be neurotypical if you look at somebody and you judge the way that they look based off of their appearances, and you judge their accessories and just their style, because that's like the most neurotypical thing, I think. Like, I don't.
And you may be autistic if.
You may be autistic if you find yourself oversharing a lot and kind of like drawn to sparkly things and forgetting a lot of stuff, but not needing to forget a lot of stuff, and then beating yourself up about it that you forgot the stuff. That happens a lot.
What's something you want to learn to do or be better at?
I guess it's a two-pronged thing. I want to learn how to be better at giving myself grace and giving myself more, like loosening the reins a little bit on myself. Like that's going to be a lifelong journey. I'd also love to learn American Sign Language, but I don't know if my brain will let me. So those are two things.
Yeah. What autistic social media account should people be paying attention to?
Oh, there's a few. So one of my favorites is, of course, Neurodivergent Rebel. My friend, the Spork Witch, I love her content as well, because she's also a disabled autistic artist who had to turn to social media and to art to like try and make a living and stuff. Those two are probably the ones I follow the most on Facebook.
What's one thing in your routine you couldn't possibly live without?
We'll say medical marijuana.
That works. And dog, cat, or must I choose?
Oh, I guess I'm kind of in a must I choose, but man, if I see a dog, I will lose myself. Like only if it's a service dog, I know not to touch. But if I just see a fluffy dog like on the street, like from driving past it, I always have to point it out. It's a dog, I guess.
Yeah. I wanted to go back to the last question for a second, if you don't mind, Marie, because I'm a caregiver for someone that has a medical marijuana card. And so I'm curious, I know you talk about like a lot of illness and things like that you deal with. How has medical marijuana helped you?
It's definitely helped me be able to function more. I remember I couldn't get it until I left the station, because they would fire me if I tested positive, even if I had a medical card. They sent an email out saying that once it became legal in some places. And so I remember the day of getting the medical card, I threw up all over myself. I could barely walk. I had to have people holding me up to get me there. Like, it was really embarrassing, honestly, to be in that position. And then when I went back 2 years later to get recertified, they didn't even recognize me because I was able to walk again. I wasn't throwing up. I do throw up constantly, but in that moment I wasn't. And they just said I looked like I had a lot more life to me. And don't get me wrong, like, it definitely doesn't take away all the pain, but that's just life. Like, we're gonna live with pain, but it makes it easier to function in a body that doesn't want you to function, for sure.
And last question, what does autistic joy mean to you?
To me, autistic joy is being able to accept yourself and allow yourself to be who you are for what you are whenever it is. So that's like, of course, to me, autistic joy is like being able to stim whenever, being able to do skills, but also to me, it looks like setting boundaries and being comfortable in being too sensitive or all of that. Cause that's something I'm dealing with, is like being comfortable in being too sensitive, because that's just who I am. And autistic joy is being happy with who you are.
Oh, that was a really good answer. Thank you so much for taking the time and spoons to join us today. I so appreciate it. I will of course be sharing your link with everybody, but please make sure you check out Marie's work. She really does amazing stuff. Her artwork is amazing. Her posts are great, informative, and I just yet another voice in our community that makes me proud. So thank you so much for coming today. And that's it for us today, Doug, huh? We will return next episode. And hopefully you will be doing better with your spoon, sir.
I hope so. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.